Very welcome to this balanced health concept presentation. I will share the screen with you and we will go through about 45 minutes the health concept that Hasnan now has started to work with. Very welcome, Hasnan, to Cinzino. And this is a thing that is so important for our health. And like Hasnan said, my name is Hugo Olsen. I'm born far up north in Norway, actually a city called Tromsø, which is north of the polar circle. So it's basically on the total opposite side of the world from where you are living now in Australia. So when I was a kid, I learned from my grandmother that eating fish is very important for good health. So I've always known that omega-3 is a very important fatty acid to have through our diets. But I did not know when we launched this concept back in 2012 that omega-6 also is an essential fatty acids. And I definitely didn't know that it's important to have balance between these two. Now I know after studying at least 6,000 pages and hundreds of hours of seminars and teaching classes through YouTube or other channels. And it is really important for our health to have a good balance between our omega-6 and omega-3. And what we are going to talk about now over the next 45, 50 minutes is how you can restore your normal omega-6-3 fatty acid balance within 120 days. For 2,500 years ago, this Hippocrates from the Greek island of Greece, Greece, he said, "Let thy food be thy medicine." Let food be thy medicine. And he was the first, as we call the original doctor on this planet. He was the first to say that sickness is a product of environmental factors, diet, and lifestyle. And if you take a look at these two women, they are both at the same age. The lady at left is using a rollator. She has an oxygen apparatus to help her breathing. She's probably dement and doesn't really know where she are and who she are and what her name is even. And the lady there on the other side, they are both at the same age, 70 years old. She's stretching out, she's been exercising, and she's probably going out there maybe to play with her grandchildren. And the important thing is that environment, lifestyle, and diet are essential whether you end up on the left-hand side or the right-hand side. And what life you want to create for yourself are things you start to be influencing already at the age of 10. These two men are both 80 years old, and you can easily see the guy on the left-hand side, dement, wheelchair, lack of mobility, and the guy on the right-hand side taking some push-ups maybe before he goes to meet some friends and watch a football match and have fun. Two different lifestyles. And the thing, again, I underline is that we are starting the creation of whether we end up on the left side or the right side at a very young age. It's very interesting. Science and technology are developing faster than ever in history. And when we look into surgical processes, we can basically replace every single part of the human being. We have never spent as much money as we're doing today on nutrition, supplements, exercise, gyms, and so on and so forth. But still, our health challenges are increasing. And what the science is pointing at is this great imbalance we have got to between omega-6s and omega-3s. And as an easy rule of thumb, you can say that the sources of omega-3s comes from everything that lives and grows on Earth. There's a picture of a hamburger there and a pizza. It doesn't have to be like that. Vegetable oils, margarines, grains, and so on and so forth. Meat that are not grass-fed, fish that are aquaculture, that's all sources of omega-6 fatty acids. Whilst the very important omega-3 fatty acids, those two we call EPA and DHA, they are coming from fatty or oily fish that lives in cold waters. Then you have another omega-3 fatty acid that comes from seeds and nuts and linoleic acid, some types of berries and things, but they cannot be converted into the EPA, DHA in our bodies. So we really need to eat fish. And the problem over time is that the intake of fatty fish has gone down the drain while the intake of omega-6s have gone through the roof. So in summary, today we have too low levels of omega-3s, too low levels of polyphenols. And to explain polyphenols easily is that that's antioxidants that we find in vegetative growing things like berries and fruits and things. And we have far too low levels of vitamin D3 in our diet. And as you can see there on the omega-6 picture, there's a red circle around it, meaning that omega-6 fatty acid drives inflammation in our body. And I will get back and explain that more to you. Whilst omega-3s have the fire extinguisher function. They're actually stopping the inflammation in our bodies. And this is extremely important, and I will explain more about that. Historically, our DNA is programmed to have a balance of 1:1. One part omega-6 to one part omega-3s. And up to the 60s, food was made from scratch at home. Mother was at home, usually in most families, cooking and preparing good meals for the family. The beef, the grain, the cattle were grass-fed, so they had a good balance in the meat. And the same was with the salmon living in the oceans and in the rivers, eating crawfish and shrimps and small fishes. And they had a natural, very high level of omega-3 fatty acids. And of course, fruits and veggies and things were grown locally. We bought a lot of these things in the farms. They could hang on the tree or the bush or the whatever plant it was until it was ripe, until it was full of color, full of nutrients. And the use of pesticides were much lower than what we did today. And what happened then is that our ratio was naturally 4:1. And I can mention to you, when I was a kid, and I grew up in Tromsø and in the 60s, when we had fast food, when I was a kid, we ended up in the fish store and we bought the fish burger. Much, much healthier than a Happy Meal from McDonald's is today. So what has happened? Well, in most families, mother is working, which means that the food industry has seen an opportunity to help the families to get the food quickly on the table after work hours, before they bring the kids to soccer or handball or any kinds of sports or music or leisure or whatever it might be. The cattle, unfortunately, as pork and hen and chicken and things, are fed now with power food. And the most important two ingredients in that type of food is actually soy and corn, which are very, very rich sources of omega-6 fatty acids. And the big problem is we actually give the same thing to the farmed salmon, aquaculture salmon. So a salmon today that you buy from Norway, for instance, or Chile or Scotland or Canada that are farmed, they're actually richer on omega-6s than omega-3s. And unfortunately, that fish burger that I got when I was a kid is now replaced with a Happy Meal from McDonald's or a crispy chicken from Burger King or a bacon hot dog, cheesy hot dog, or whatever it might be from some gas station or some outlet somewhere. And this has led to a very elevated ratio of the omega-6, omega-3 imbalance, which today is like 21:1 in Australia, average is 15:1 in Europe, but we are climbing, and 25:1 in US. And I'm sure you all agree with me that the challenge is that we are copying US on the nutrients, on the food, on the crap and the fast food we are eating. So the trend is very clear. We are moving in that direction. And if we look at the balance in the areas where we've done most balance tests, for your information, we opened up Australia back in April this year. So Has9 is a pioneer now in starting up with the balance concept and presenting Cinzino in Australia. But in Europe, in average, you can see that at least when you get to the age group 50 plus, there are some yellow values. In other words, 8.9:1 or less in balance. But look at US and look at the age group 20 to 30 years old. The average is 33:1. Then it goes to 27:1. It's all red. There are no yellow values. And what you should know is that, as I mentioned earlier, we are copying the US diets, which means that we are moving in the same direction. Australia actually further than Europe, but if we looked into UK, we will see that they are even worse than what you are in Australia. Keep in mind that US is the country in the world that eat most medicines. And we see the trend very clearly on the nutrition they are eating, the food they are eating. They get fatter and fatter. They get more and more problems with chronic inflammations, and the life expectancy is going down. So not really very good news. And the reason for this is because this way of eating is driving inflammations in our bodies. This gentleman you can see here on the picture is Dr. Paul Clayton. He has researched and been studying nutrition and the impact on brain and behavior for over 45 years. He's a fellow at the University of Oxford in the United Kingdom. And he wrote this book called Out of the Fire. And this book is dealing with why chronic inflammation is the root of all disease and how to put out the flames. And he's putting in a citation there from the Scientific American, where he says that inflammation is an underlying contributor to virtually every chronic disease, like rheumatoid arthritis, Crohn's disease, which is inflammation in your gut, rheumatoid arthritis, diabetes and depression, along with major killers such as heart disease and stroke. And he also talks about cancer. And the reason for this is because, like I mentioned earlier, omega-6 and omega-3s are controlling two very important start-stop mechanisms in our body. In other words, the inflammation process. Because it is like this, omega-6 with a fatty acid called arachidonic acid, that's what triggers and starts an inflammation in our body. A life necessary thing in case you get an insect bite or you get something in through your skin or in through your mouth that is causing problems. Your body needs to start what we call an acute inflammation to protect itself. And I will explain that more. Could be a cut in your finger when you're cooking in the kitchen, allergens, microbes in terms of bacteria, virus, fungal growth, parasites or yeast, oxidative stress. Top athletes are very, very bothered with that. You know, they get a lot of what we call free radicals. Smoking and pollution is very inflammatory. The same is stress. And what it says there in the bottom, processed foods. And in the processed foods, there are 4 ingredients that particularly drive inflammation. And that's sugar, wheat flour, vegetable oils and margarines, and refined salt. Salt is necessary for life, but in the sea salt type, the Himalaya salt and things like that, not the refined white powder that we buy because it destroys our arteries and the cardiovascular system. Then the stop mechanism on its side, the most important there is this omega-3 fatty acid called EPA. But together with DHA, antioxidants, vitamins and minerals, polyphenols, like I mentioned earlier, antioxidants from the plant kingdom, so to speak, together with body enzymes and metabolism, this is then lowering the inflammations in our bodies. And the way it's working is that we are in what we call a standby, or from a medicine expression, normal homeostasis. Then we get an attack from outside, a tissue injury or an allergy, microbe, a bee sting, or whatever it might be, or down in Australia you have spiders and snakes and things like that. So what happens is, once we get these injury or bite or whatever it might be, the body is triggering an immediate acute inflammation. And the start mechanism, the signal molecules to start this, is this omega-6 fatty acid called arachidonic acid. And already 2,500 years ago, Hippocrates and a Roman doctor called Celsius, that may sound familiar to you, they said that the signs of an acute inflammation is redness, pain, swelling, and heat. The challenge is, if you don't have a good balance now between the omega-6 and the omega-3s, this mechanism is not stopping. And over time, it develops into chronic inflammations, and you start potentially the development of all these lifestyle diseases that are taking far too many lives far too early. But what we want, of course, is that this mechanism stops. So it heals, it protects, it strengthens your immune system. Your body gets rest and goes back to standby or normal homeostasis, and you're ready for a new attack. And if you can imagine that you have 15 guys throwing gasoline onto the fire in order to drive inflammations, but you have one little guy there, that's the average of Europe, 15-1, but actually in Australia, 21 guys throwing gasoline at the fire, and one poor little guy with a fire extinguisher trying to put out the fires, then that's a really hopeless game and battle, which means that many, many people ends up with chronic inflammations. And just to mention as an example, in 2017, on the globe, 17.7 million people died from cardiovascular diseases. The medical term is atherosclerosis. And what you should know is that the risk for developing, or the disposition of developing atherosclerosis, starts already at age 10, like I said. So when a person gets a heart attack when they are 58, it's not because they celebrated their friend's birthday too tough or too hard. It's a question of what they've been eating wrong from age 10 and for decades to come there. The benefits of being in balance. You can see here there is an ice mountain there on the right-hand side, iceberg. And when I talk about low grade inflammatory diseases, it's a little bit that you could illustrate it with this iceberg, because like cardiovascular diseases, cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, a lot of these diseases are actually developing over a long period of time. And once it gets up to the surface, once it starts to be visible in terms of pain or high blood pressure or arrhythmia in the heartbeats and things, then it has been developing for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And that's when we normally goes to the doctor. So everything when it comes to these lifestyle diseases is all about prevention, preventing it from occurring in the first place, so you can live a long and healthy life without problems in old age, without reduced mobility, without problems with dementia or Alzheimer's and all these kind of things. And the reason why it's so beneficial to be in balance is because it starts already at cell level. You and I, we are built up of 100 billion cells, and they are there for two important purposes: to be renewed and to produce energy. And if you think about every little cell as a mini nuclear power plant, where you have a cell, a nucleus, you have mitochondria that are there to produce energy, and all of these are very nicely packed into a cell membrane. And this cell membrane has an inner and an outer layer, and what's in between there is what we call phospholipids, phospholipid B layer. And you find all kinds of fat in that phospholipid layer, but there are two that we have to put in through the mouth, through what the food or the supplements we're eating, and that's omega-6 and omega-3s. They are essential, or life necessary for life, if you like. And it's on this fundamental level that the difference between good and bad health is occurring. Because if you have a good balance between omega-6 and omega-3, you have a healthy cell. The cell membrane is soft and permeable, which means that nutrients from the food or the supplements we are eating can get into the cell. Waste products can get out. The cell can produce energy. Microcirculation is working good, and thereby also the inflammation and combating of inflammation. But if you have too much omega-6 and too little omega-3s, this cell membrane is getting hard and rigid, which means that only some of the nutrients can get into the cell, only some of the waste products can get out. The cell is not capable of producing as much energy. Over time, you get less energy, you get even sick, and microcirculation is not working that good. And keep in mind that the most microcirculation is actually in your brain. And also then the combating of inflammation is not working that well. And if you look at this PowerPoint slide you see here, this is really the fundament that the beautiful house that you live in, your body, is built on. If this is not working well, you can take whatever vitamins and minerals and things you put into through your mouth, but it won't be taken up by the cells. And the cell, if the unbalance is too big, so there are too little omega-3s there, the nutrients will not get into the cell and make the job they should do in order for the cell to produce the energy you need. And I'm sure you agree with me that it's important to have a healthy cell on the left-hand side. And remember, cell renewal is going over and over again throughout the entire life. When that stops, we are no longer here. There are many other health benefits as well. DHA, the omega-3 fatty acids I mentioned earlier, is the most dominant omega-3 fatty acid in the brain. And together with EPA, the other omega-3 acid that is very important, it is helping to maintain a normal brain function. Short-term memory, long-term memory, energy levels like I talked about, preventing dementia, concentration, be able to read a book without the letters jumping up and down and so forth. where kids have a lot of problems these days. Then the most important for the cardiovascular system, a normal heart function, is the fatty acid we call EPA. And then vitamin D is very important for a normal immune function. And here you can see also 18 other health claims that are approved by the European Food Safety Authorities. And you can see here the omega-3s are very important for normal vision, for normal teeth, muscle functions, bone structure, protection of blood lipids from oxidative stress. DHA and EPA contributes to a normalization of blood pressure, cell division, cell renewal, keep the normal blood triglyceride levels, and you can see reducing blood cholesterol, help to protect cells against oxidative stress, free radicals as we call it. And you can see it's also important for the absorption and utilization of different minerals, and also to get the blood calcium levels right. And DHA says normal brain development of the fetus and the breastfed infants. So with the last 3 points, you can see how important it is for the mother and child before, during, and after pregnancy. The mood profile, or what we call the wellness indicator, is also impacted a lot depending on the omega-6-3 fatty acid ratio. This is a study done at the University of Siena in Italy back in time here. And you can see that what it explains is that if you go from an imbalance of 9:1 or higher on the first staple there, the red one, getting to 5:1 or lower, it has a very positive impact on anger, anxiety, fatigue, depression, confusion, and energy. And most people notice the difference in energy once they start getting in balance and get the omega-3 levels up in the blood. The World Health Organization is recommending that we get to a ratio to 4:1 or lower for a good cardiovascular health. And that's based on studies where they have found that if you are on 4:1 or lower, the risk for death with cardiovascular diseases are reduced with 70%. 70%, and that's a very, very high number. And the science here illustrated with Dr. Artemis Simopoulos. This lady is 83 years old, and she's probably the one on the planet that knows the most about the omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acid balance. She had a big conference of the World Council of Genetics, Nutrition, and Fitness for Health in Olympus in Greece back in October in 2010. And every specialist on the subject was there, and there they agreed that we need to get down to 3:1 or lower for a good health and to prevent the risk of developing all these lifestyle diseases. And this is what Hasnain and Mehran and myself and Christopher are working with, the balanced health concept, to help people to restore the omega-6-3 fatty acid balance within 120 days. And what we actually are doing is we are helping you to get the fatty fish, but through a bottle, like with balance oil or capsules that I will show you later. And one of the things that we are doing, which is very important, is basically or literally to check what color is the lamp of your oil lamps, so to speak. And what we do is we sting your finger, we take a balance test measuring 11 fatty acids that comprises about 98% of all the fatty acids in the blood. And on the table on the left-hand side there, you can see the different 11 fatty acids that we are measuring. So we take a sting in your finger, we take a few drops of blood, and we send it to a big independent laboratory that are in the research park in Oslo. For you that are in Australia, actually it will be sent to Perth, where we have our headquarters. And then several times a week, DHL packages are going from Perth to Oslo to save time. The analysis is done within a 2 weeks period. And you probably recognize these inflammation start-stop mechanism that we discussed earlier on the lower 4 fatty acids there with arachidonic acid and the EPA. And then, of course, DHA in the bottom, which is so important for the brain and all the cell membranes together with EPA as well. And Vitas is, like I told you, an independent laboratory. All the tests are anonymous. The only way we find your results is through a barcode that we keep to be able to find the test results. Vitas is a GMP certified laboratory, good manufacturing practice. It's the same quality system that actually the pharmaceutical industry need to comprise to. and adhere to in order to be able to produce those things. So they have full traceability on all the tests, and you can see there a number of customers that are sending their tests to Vitas. Vitas is the biggest European laboratory when it comes to dry blood spot tests. So you can also see that the World Health Organization are actually sending a lot of tests up there from different parts of the world. In October 2019, we had actually done over 348,000 tests. It's the largest in number ever done on this planet. And if we look into the Australian results so far, only 2% of Australians have a natural ratio through the food they're eating of 3:1. 13%, that's the group who are taking some kind of supplement, but as you can see, they are not getting in balance. The average is actually 13:1. And 85% who are not taking any supplement, they have an average ratio of 21:1. And based on these test results, we can literally, as I said, read out what kind of color you have on your oil lamp, on your body's oil lamp. What you see here is a picture of my daughter, Madeleine. She was born in 1993. And based on these 11 fatty acids, we can read out some very valuable indicators. And if you look here at Madeleine's test result that I did in October 2013, 2 months before she was 20, you can see that there's a lot of red oil lamps there. And the reason being is because her omega-3 level, the total amount of EPA and DHA in her blood, line number 2 there, that should be over 8%, was only 3%. That meant that her protection against inflammation, her fatty acid profile value, that should be over 90%, was only 0.0. And as you can see, she had the American average, her balance, omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, that should be below 3:1, was on 25:1. The only thing that was green in Madeleine's blood test was her body's efficiency in creating arachidonic acid from the various omega-6 fatty acids in her blood. It should be over 30%. So the start mechanism, the thing that drives inflammation, that's the green thing. But if you look at the things that should stop or reduce inflammation, it's all red. Her cell membrane fluidity index, that should be below 4:1, was on 12.6. And her mental strength, her mood profile that we just looked at, should be below 1:1, and she was on 3.2. The interesting thing is that when I took the test on Madeleine in October 2013, she had had migraine since the age of 12, with very, very tough attacks, at least 1.5 to 2 times per month. So they used to call from school and saying, hey, you need to come and pick up Madeleine. She's getting now a migraine attack. It started to be pricking with the fingers, flashing with your eyes, being paralyzed in parts of the face. And we brought her home, brought her to bed, and then pulled the curtains, and then she would stay in bed, dark and without any sounds and things, for 6-7 hours, or even until the morning after. But what's also interesting is that back in October 2013, when she came home from the gymnasium, she was studying to become a hairdresser. She was so tired, she was so out of energy that she had to sleep at least 1.5 hours every day before she even managed to eat dinner. Long story short, if you look into July 2016, the test when I did it there, her protection value was up to 100% because she managed to bring her omega-3 level in her blood up to 9.6%. And I will tell you shortly why that ended up like that and why our products are so unique in that aspect. Her balance was 2.1:1. As you can see, everything was green. And I have a new daughter. Now she works 8 hours a day, comes home, cook her food, walks the dog, and is in the studio singing. She's a songbird, or out with friends. She's sleeping literally 480 hours less per year, because that's what 1.5 hours per day adds up to in a year. And she has no migraine attacks whatsoever anymore. Brand new girl, and I don't even dare thinking about what it would end up like if she continued the way she did. In today, what we are very proud of is that people that have been using our products for a period of 120 days get close to a ratio near 3:1, and it's 95%. And that's a tremendous result. and you won't find any medicine on this planet that is doing the same thing. Our unique combination, our balance oil, is there to help you to compensate for the fatty fish that you're not eating. Many of you that are here on this presentation, I guess you're eating fish one, maybe twice a week, maybe some 3 times a week, but far from enough to bring it in balance because we're eating so much more omega-6 fatty acids. And there are 3 elements that needs to be in place to get a powerful result. What we are using, and most people, I mean, all omega-3 supplement suppliers, they have to use purified wild fish oil or algae oil, but it needs to be purified. And when you purify the fish oil, you remove the lead, the mercury, the toxins, the dioxins, the unwanted substances that we can get from eating fatty fish. We use a wild fish oil that a catch that is made up on the coast of Norway up to Iceland and Greenland. It's from in majority of mackerel and anchovies and sardines, very fatty fish, very rich on EPA and DHA. Then in order to help us to build a strong immune system, we add a little extra of vitamin D3. But the thing is, when we do the refining or the purification of fish oil, what we actually do is we also remove the protection the fish has from going rancid. And when we remove the substances that protects the fish from going rancid, the omega-3 oil then becomes very unstable. And that is the biggest challenge with the supplements you find out there in the different stores or the pharmacies, is it goes very easily rancid. So what we are doing, we are using an extra virgin pre-harvest olive oil, and olive oil is very rich on something called polyphenols. And the polyphenols in olive oil is called hydroxytyrosol. They are actually 17 times stronger than vitamin C, that we know is a very strong antioxidant within the vitamin selection. So what happens here is that this extra virgin pre-harvest olive oil is actually protecting the wild fish oil or the algae oil from going rancid, both in the bottle or in the capsule, as well as in our bodies. So, and then you can see dosage. We are dosing 0.15 milliliter per kilo body weight, and all these 3 things together, a very high quality omega-3, protected by polyphenols from extra virgin olive oil, plus a dosage on your body weight, which makes sense, gives very powerful results with very good synergistic effects for your health. And this is what we call the Mediterranean diet. And the Mediterranean diet historically has been known to be the area on the planet with the lowest occurrence of cardiovascular diseases. We also have a balance oil called Aqua X. And the unique thing with this, it dissolves in liquids, whether it is water or juice or whatever it might be. Could be very good for children that don't like this oil consistency, or with people that have problems in dissolving the regular balance oil. Lemon flavor and the same dosing as the regular balance oil. Then we also have for people that are vegans, we have a unique product called Balance Oil Vegan here. And this is made from the algae oil from what we call the Schizochytrum sp, which is very rich on EPA and DHA, together with Equium seed oil, together with extra virgin olive oil to protect it from going rancid. And then we have the extra vitamin D3, and we have rosemary as a taste. Tastes very neutral. And note here that the dosage is a little lower, 0.10 milliliter per kilo body weight. And if there is something vegans have huge challenges with, that is to bring the body in balance, because they don't eat fatty fish. But with this one, we can help our bodies to be in balance and to build a healthy and well-working cell membrane and cell structure. So in summary, very quickly, you see the balance oil flavors up there with orange lemon mint, lemon vanilla, the balance oil Aqua X, and the vegan oil. And we have even added now a new bottle at flavor called grape, lime, and citrus. And you can see the certificates, the quality certificates we have with GMP. Friend of the Seas means that our producer of fish oil, they are treating the fish from the sea until the finished product in a very good way. And every piece of the fish is being used. The only thing is that we only use the oil, the fats from the fish, because that's what we need to bring the balance in place. ISO 9000 certified, everything we use is of course GMO free, and the logotype there, Informed Sport or Trusted by Sport, means that there are no ingredients in our products in conflict with doping regulations. So 1 day dose of balance oil corresponds to this amount in gram of fish every single day, if you compare it to what an 80-kilo person with 12 milliliter balance oil is having as an intake every day. And you can see that these amounts are totally incredible. Fish balls, 9.8 kilograms. I mean, I like fish balls and white sauce and things, but not that amount every single day. And what you can see here on this table is that you need to get to the fatty fish, the herring, the mackerels, before you get the amount of EPAs and DHA required to get your body in balance, to be equivalent to what you get of a daily dose of balance oil of 12 milliliters. So here, if we were together now, we would let you taste, but Has9 can arrange that, or you signed up as a customer with Has9 and then you get a chance to taste the various flavors. And we have a very, very good customer offer. If you want to bring your body in balance, you can select to go for a kit called Balance Oil with Balance Test. I recommend everybody to take the test to see where they are starting, and then to see that the body is getting in balance after 120 days. Here you can see a picture of the welcome kit. 2 large bottles of balance oil, 300 mils. You get 2 small bottles of 100 ml balance oil. On the large one, you can select there between grapefruit, lemon, lime, orange, lemon, mint, lemon, and vanilla, just like I mentioned. And the normal price for this welcome kit is 556 Australian dollars. But if you signed up for a 6-month subscription, and I can tell you, my friend, to try it less than 6 months makes no sense, because it takes 4 months just to replace your red blood cell. And keep in mind that the other cells in your body, like the skeleton, for instance, needs 7 to 10 years to be renewed. So you get a discount on the welcome kit, which means that you pay only 250 Australian dollars. And then after that, you pay $45 per month for 1 300 milliliter bottle of balance oil of your choice. And that subscription goes for up to 6 months. You can see here the Aqua X welcome kit, a little bit more expensive because of the production cost of the Aqua X. So the welcome kit costs there $249. The same package there with 2 large, 2 small bottles and 2 tests. And the monthly subscription cost for Balance Oil Aqua X is $59 per month. And the vegan is here. You can see smaller doses. You take 10 ml per day. The start welcome kit is 299 Australian dollars, and then per bottle per month is $99 per month for the 6-month subscription. The way it works is, if you decide to be a customer with Has9, you buy your welcome kit. That's listed there as month 0. You get the delivery and you get it with a test, and you either do it with Has9 person to person, or if you are on distance, we do it through Zoom. We can help you to do that, of course. And then you pay every single month up to 6 months. You get the deliveries every second month, and that is in order to reduce the freight cost. So the welcome kit we just looked at is designed to contain both the balance test. There are also options without the test that cost a little bit less, should you not want to do the test. But then it should last for the first 2 months. So when you get your delivery in month 2, then you have consumed the welcome kit. Then month 4, you get another shipment, and this shipment is including test number 2. We take that together and we look at the result to see that you have a good protection, to see that you've got your omega-3 levels, EPA, DHA up in your blood, so that you are in balance 3-to-1 or better. And then it continues to new delivery. Then in month 6, 2 bottles is coming there, and then it continues unless you decide to cancel your subscription. But keep in mind, unless you are changing your diet to eat much more fatty fish, I can promise you it's very hard to stay in balance without a supplement. And we know that our works because we have brought 95% into balance after a period of 120 days. We also have something we call a money back guarantee. So should you believe that you are in balance due to the diet you have today, and you signed up as a customer with Hus9, then it turns out that your balance actually is 3-1 or better. Then we return whatever products you have left that you have not used. You get all the money back from Zinzino, including the freight cost, and then you can continue to do whatever brought you in balance in the first place. We also have a very good beneficial program for our subscription customers. So one thing is the discounts you get on your welcome kit and your monthly order, but you can also buy other products from Zinzino at the premier pricing, the best possible pricing. So if you recommend 4 other people to use the products that you are happy with yourself, then you will get actually the products for free. And you can see there is a picture of a Zinzino Balance app there on the phone. If you, in addition to using the products, having 4 customers, and you say, yes, I have remembered to take the Balance Oil every day, and you do it for a year, then you actually get the freight for free as well. And should you decide to install also this step counter so that you walk over 7,500 steps every day, well, then you get it for free already after half a year. I guess many of you are driving a car, and on your dashboard, when you start your car, you see a number of warning lamps. And when you see the one in the bottom, the number 2 from left, the oil lamp, we are all programmed to stop the car and to refill before we continue driving. So my question to you is, what is the color of your oil lamp? Do you think it's green? Do you think it's yellow? Or do you think it's red? Because having a good nutrition, taking care of your health, and preventing the lifestyle diseases is the key thing. And what WHO, World Health Organization, is actually saying is that if you stop smoking, start moving more, and change your food habits, you can actually prevent 80% of all cardiovascular diseases, 90% of diabetes type 2, and 30% of all cancer. And moving to the last slide here before we open up for questions. The choice is yours, but my strongest recommendation is that you sign in with Hus9 as a customer, you take the test, you start using the products of your choice, whether it's the normal Balance Oil with the various tastes, or it's the Aqua-X or the vegan oil. We review the test results and go through it to explain what the different colors of your oil lamps are. And then after using the products for 120 days, we do the retest. We see what your balance number are, so you see you have the right protection. And now I will open up for questions. Again, I strongly recommend you to take the test to see what the color of your oil lamps are.